On behalf of Rod and myself, I want to welcome everybody to this Vantage Future Ready overview. This is a time where we get to share some details about this partnership offering that we provide to organizations out there that are trying their best to be future ready. We have some thoughts and ideas on how to help them do so. From a historical perspective, IFTF was founded in the late 1960s. We've been doing foresight-related research for well over 50 years. Our researchers either report into or lead research labs that cross domain areas like technology, food, health, digital intelligence, emerging media. All of those research labs fall under the IFTF Vantage umbrella, and they all collect together and provide research on an ongoing basis for this offering that we provide people. We, in addition to ongoing research in IFTF Vantage, we do custom research, and we also help train people in long-term thinking techniques. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end. Note that IFTF is a not-for-profit organization, so one of the great things that we offer is freely available research. So lots of research comes out on an ongoing basis, and we do our best to build communication around this foresight. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Rod to dive deeper into Vantage, and you'll hear from me a little bit later.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to share with you more about the IFTF Vantage program. I'm going to start by sharing with you a little bit about how we think about foresight, and then share with you a few details of the program. So for us, strategic foresight is really a set of tools, processes, and especially mindsets for anticipating the future and making decisions under conditions of uncertainty. It's also about imagination and being able to see transformative possibilities where there were none before. And it can be useful for a lot of different things, especially inside organizations and working with teams, primarily challenging our assumptions that the current way of doing things will continue to work. Many of our forecasts are framed as shifts, moving away from an old way of doing things to a new way of doing things. And like I said, strategic foresight can really help challenge those assumptions and build a shared long-term perspective. It's very important for anticipating long-term threats. And for those of you that are looking for strategic opportunities, strategic foresight helps us and not only identify, but anticipate those strategic opportunities. And all of this strategic foresight, really the ultimate value really is around preparation and being ready for the future as it unfolds. We always like to invoke the words of William Gibson, who said the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. It's also a reminder to look for the future in the present. And for those of you that have worked for us, you know that a big part of our practice is looking for signals of change in the present. For us, signals are something new that just emerged. Could be a piece of data, but it's giving us a hint of an emerging future. And for us, signals are building blocks for the forecast that we develop. And we use these signals to really define a wide range of possibilities. And we frame those as forecast scenarios, but we're really trying to frame a wide range of possible futures. So a big part of our practice is framing alternative futures. So those include scenarios of growth, collapse, constraint, and transformation. And then we work with organizations directly through a process of narrowing those possibilities, ultimately through plausible, probable, and preferred futures. And then we work with you in different ways to identify the actions you can take today to really help manifest those preferred futures. We do that by thinking through this process of foresight, insight, and action. And actually, it's the same process that is central to many of our training programs, where we've identified tried and true processes and codified our ways of working across this framework of foresight, insight, action, so you can build foresight capacity inside your organization. But yeah, so we're thinking through foresight. We move to insight, identifying threats and opportunities, and then identifying actions. So foresight, there's no point in thinking about the future unless you're going to do something about it in the present. And so really framing the value of strategic foresight, moving through this process is really key to our practice. A big part of doing that is really thinking through horizons. So horizon 1, 2, and 3, and these correspond with very particular mindsets. Horizon 1 is more short-term and really kind of invokes the managerial mindset. Horizon 2 is more around the organization itself and innovation and the entrepreneurial mindset. And Horizon 3 is more speculative and visionary. Future back thinking is part of our practice. A lot of our forecasts might be speculative and really sit out on Horizon 3. When we work with organizations, we do future back thinking, which means we think then about the implications at Horizon 1. So your current market footprint, products, services, and experiences. And then we think about what's next, and that's really Horizon 2. Given that speculative future on Horizon 3 and how it might impact our market footprint, are there additional opportunity or innovation spaces that we need to invest in? And those are actions that we take on Horizon 2. So really working with strategic foresight, some people may think we're only working on the long term, but we're actually having to do a lot of horizon jumping and working across short, medium, and long term to get the full value of strategic foresight, especially within organizations. You may have seen this study by Renee Rohrbach. This is one of the key foundational studies that's out there. It's a 7-year study that shows that those organizations, corporations that are using strategic foresight are 33% more profitable and experience more growth. We like to share this because many of you might find yourselves in a position as you consider working with IFTF metrics and evidence that strategic foresight actually is impactful inside organizations. So we just added that as a resource for you to read and certainly share with your own colleagues. Ultimately, strategic foresight is about being prepared and being ready. And that's really captured by this quote by one of my colleagues, Jake Dunnigan, who said, "It's better to be surprised by a simulation rather than being blindsided by reality." So you can think of strategic foresight as a way, the more that you can anticipate, the more that you can be ready, that's really the value of strategic foresight, so that we can avoid or really minimize being surprised and completely avoid being blindsided and being caught off guard. So the IFTF Vantage program is the primary way that IFTF partners with organizations. So it's a program where organizations in government, corporations, and even nonprofits join. And it's we think of it as a partnership. Organizations that are really on a path of trying to build the capacity internally to become future-ready organizations and engage in collective sense-making about the future. So it's we're really bringing together the foresight research, the foresight practice, the foresight training, all together in a program that helps you and your organization anticipate and navigate the future. You'll see in a moment as I go through the benefits and list, it's really designed to help you engage with longer term horizons and really work with that foresight to identify threats and opportunities. And again, it's really designed to help you be prepared. These are a range of organizations that we work with, and Sean, you might want to add something here.
Yeah. Why are these organizations working with us? So if you look at a typical organization, you don't tend to find a foresight department across industry. There's human resources, there's strategy, there's marketing, et cetera. So foresight tends to be a part of an existing framework of whoever has the permission to look long term. So just looking at the list of companies here, why are they joining us? One organization wants to apply foresight to their insights department. So they decided they like the data about the future, where things are headed, market research data, but and what are the insights from that market research data, but they want to take the qualitative side of looking at foresight to it. Another group doesn't want its C-suite to be miss out on what's next. One specific organization missed out on the mobile transformation of society and didn't want to miss out on anything else. So they work with us to really think through what are the different technologies that are coming that might disrupt society so that they can ride that new wave. Another one has a 5 key strategy areas, and next year the number 2 focus area is to just build out foresight across the organization. So they partnered with us to help them do that. Another one here is looking deeply into ESG issues, environmental, social, and governance issues. And so what does foresight have to play in those domain areas, and how will it inform their own business as they go to market? And finally, I see one organization here that has had 15% of their staff go through our Coursera training offerings. So Coursera is a website out there that provides as much as you consume content, educational content. And we have a lot of courses on there, I think 45 or 50 hours worth of content and training on that platform. And 15% of their staff has taken that course. They've got a solid group of people, and now they want to dive deeper into ongoing research from IFTF. So that's just a quick overview of why some of these organizations have come to us.
Thanks, Sean. I'll skip that since I said that. Let me walk you through just some of the program elements of the Vantage program. Here are some of the things that you would benefit from if you were to join the IFTF Vantage program. Like I said, it's a bundle of services and experiences designed to help you and your organization build foresight capacity and become a future-ready organization. One of the things that we just added this year are what we're calling foresight councils. These are peer-to-peer networks of other partner foresight professionals inside these organizations that come together quarterly to go deeper on a particular topic or domain area. So we have foresight councils on tech and media. They just, in their last meeting, they did a deep dive on AI and the metaverse. We have other foresight councils in applied foresight, food. We'll have one soon on healthcare. But these are peer-to-peer groups that are engaged in conversation quarterly, and they're hosted by an IFTF researcher. IFTF Vantage comes with foresight training. So you have a couple of seats to join any one of our core trainings. There's the main course that teaches you all of our tools that are organized across Foresight Inside Action. We have trainings in design futures and one on scenarios. We also every year do a map of the decade, which is connected to our 10-year forecast. Our 10-year forecast, before the pandemic, was a face-to-face meeting. It is now virtual, but it's a guided journey through future forces that are shaping the next decade. And it's where we deliver a map of the decade, a set of forecasts that look at the operational environment for organizations 10 years out. I think we can share with you one of our last maps of the decade so you get a sense of what that is we'll probably put it up in the follow-up email. We also have Vantage Point, which is a community or resource hub where we're putting all of our past research, tools, frameworks. A big part of what you would have access to is many of our partners have questions about how they practice foresight. And so we've organized a lot of those in FAQs and really trying to surface the best practices and frameworks for actually practicing strategic foresight inside organizations. We also put together a playbook on the Future Ready organization, which you can actually access now. I think we'll have Joanne put a link in where you can register for that. We also have a platform for signals where you can contribute signals, see the signals that other partners are contributing. And twice a year, we'll be having what we call signal sprints, where you can participate in adding signals on a topic where we'll be synthesizing those signals and sharing those with you. Future Factors is really an important platform. One of the things that we encourage our partners to do is to create their own signals club within their organizations, and they can use Future Factors and create their own space to support that work. The partnership also comes with an IFTF Foresight Guide and dedicated IFTF resource to help you navigate all the actual forecasts that we have, but also to help you connect you with researchers or other people and experts in our network. And like I said, we have a 10-year forecast. This year, it'll be coming to you on a quarterly basis. So there'll be 4 episodes to the 10-year forecast. So lots of opportunity to engage with IFTF forecasts in our community of researchers. But that gives you a sense of the what we've bundled together from across IFTF to really help you and your organization become more future ready. The Foresight Councils, like I said earlier, we have one on tech and media, applied foresight, and food futures. I think we're adding a link that'll show you additional descriptions, and we even have videos directly from the Foresight Council leaders, so you get a sense of what those are like. And I'll let Sean talk a little bit more about Foresight Essentials.
Yeah, like Rod said, the Foresight Council link is in the chat or in the chat, as well as some more detail on Foresight Essentials. Really quickly, about 9 years ago, we began teaching people the techniques that we use to look long term. So here's the latest toolkit for the Foresight Essentials offering. We started off with 15 techniques. Now we're up to 22 that's in this coursework. And about 3 years ago, we added 2 additional courses, the scenario building course and the design future course. So after I'm done chatting, I'll put into the chat some dates for these upcoming courses so that you're aware of them. As a member of IFTF Vantage, you get 2 individual seats. So 2 people could go to Foresight Essentials. 1 person could go to Foresight Essentials, another to design futures. The same person could go to Foresight Essentials and scenario building. So it's 2 offerings or 2 seats that can be used across any of these offerings. So some people mix and match it with different people, others have the individual go. But it's really nice complement to the ongoing research and webinar stream that we have coming our way. But like I said, I'll put the dates that are coming up into the chat so you're familiar with them.
So I think now we're going to open it up to questions. So thank you for listening, but we'd love to hear what's on your mind, any questions you might have.
Yeah, put it, if you just write it to click on everyone so people can see it, and we'll add, provide some commentary for you all. I see one question that popped in. It's, does IFTF engage with organizations in a consulting capacity? What does that look like?
Yes, we that's advisory work that we do with any of our partners, and it can range really ranges, there's a wide range of ways that we engage on an advisory basis. Everything from joining, doing a content presentation for one of their events, to really scoping out new and custom foresight research, to helping them scope out projects, or moving fully through a foresight inside action process of co-developing foresight, working with internal teams with that foresight to identify opportunity spaces and threats and opportunities, and even building out action roadmaps against those priority areas that can shape and influence their strategy. So it can take many different forms. And so if you are interested in that, do let Sean know, and we can start that conversation, which usually starts with you telling us more about what your idea is, and we'll engage in a process of clarifying if we can help.
Perfect. Thanks, Rod. Another question that I saw popped in is, what is the easiest way to explain what strategic foresight is to the management or to the management team without making it too technical?
Really good question. I think the best way is that it's an interesting question, because like, what is technical? So I immediately want to jump to talking about horizons, but I immediately telling myself that might be too technical. I think the best way is that strategic foresight is a set of tools, frameworks, and mindsets to anticipate what is changing or what will change. And probably the easiest way to engage with futures work is to talk about change. Things are constantly changing, and we often frame a lot of our work in shifts. And one of the core tools in our toolkit is something that we call the two-curve framework. And probably the easiest way to talk about foresight is that it helps clarify how we're moving from an old way of doing things to a new way of doing things. And the more technical explanation would be that most organizations face a two-curve problem, which is they're operating on two curves. The first curve is their current business or current business model, which is being challenged in many different directions. And there's a second curve that isn't completely clear, but it's coming, there's some clarity. And that second curve is a new business. It's a new way of doing things. And so the organization is really facing this problem where they need to continue to be on that first curve, continuing to make money on that first curve, while building the capacity to jump to that second curve sometime in the future. So that is probably the easiest and clearest. And I think that second curve framework is, in my experience, has been very compelling to organizations.
You made me feel good, Rob, because whenever someone starts to ask me about what we do, I always go to that two-curve framework as a way to explain here's where we are today, here's where things are possibly headed in the future, and this is the challenge that people and organizations have to balance the current and old way to the future possible way. Alma asks an interesting question. What are the latest techniques in foresight?
I mean, there's so many across, there's so many depending on the kind of work that you're doing. I think personally, what I think are some of the latest are really coming from what I call design futures. And it's more, they're not techniques necessarily in generating foresight, but more in the communication and the immersion of foresight. I think there's so many, I think those of us that identify as futurists or even researchers are more enamored with probably the most speculative forecasts and a lot of the details of forecasting. But I think to be really effective and to influence decision makers, you really have to be strategic, and really pull on different storytelling approaches and even different ways to immerse people in future. So I really like what designers are doing to make futures more tangible. I like what gamers and information designers are doing with decks and techniques to engage with forecasts in a more modular basis, rather than, if I get a forecast that is just in text form, that's not very useful. I'm more interested in how it's being unpacked, the stories around it, how they're being told, how I'm being immersed into a world, so that I can hold it and really think through the implications of that world at different scales. So I think that's what's really new.
Perfect. I think we have time for one more question. Also from Mama, how can I identify a signal of the future and distinguish it from one that is not?
One that is not a signal of the future?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I can pop in there. So for me, a signal would be something that can scale in size or scale in geographic reach. It can be a technology, a business model, a new law or regulation, or a change in sentiment. So it's something, and what it's not is like AI or demographics. So AI and demographics, what we would call those drivers of change, but a signal would be an actual occurrence where if it was to increase in size. So like one go-to one that I saw that was important for the solar industry here in California. 2 years ago, a law was enacted January 1st, 2021. Any new home built in California had to have solar on the roof. So the increase of cost of doing so was about 0.5% to the cost of building compared to putting it on after the fact, which is about 5%. So they created that law. Every new building requires solar. All of a sudden, in 1 year, solar deployment went up 60%. And now on an ongoing basis, you can count on solar being deployed as long as new houses are being built. Rancho Cucamonga was like the first place that did that in California, and the state followed suit. France did it as well. I'm sure some other nations are doing it. So it's do you start to see this scale in different geographies? And if you see it scaling in size as well, that's impactful. But those are my go-to areas: new technologies, changes or new business models, new laws, regulations, and new changes in social sentiment. It's 5:31. We promised to wrap up at 5:30. Again, we'll take all the links that we've dropped into the chat. We'll share those with you. The PowerPoint will be shared, and that'll go out to all the registrants. So know that that's coming your way. Think of this as a starting point of a conversation with many of you who have met us for the first time. If you have any questions or comments, please direct them our way. We're eager to talk to you about the future.